IMF chief Dominic Strauss-Kahn wants out of jail. He wants a bond, and tomorrow he may get that chance. His lawyers got him a bail hearing, and of course Strauss-Kahn is facing serious charges after being accused of trying to rape a maid at a fancy New York City hotel. Earlier today, Jeff Shapiro, the woman's attorney, went on the record. So how is your client? How's she doing?
Well, you know, I guess she's as good as could be expected under the circumstances. This is someone who had an extraordinarily traumatic, horrible thing happen to her, and since then she's been in a whirlwind of activity and with the New York City Police Department and the District Attorney's Office, and culminating, you know, an appearance before the grand jury. And she was separated from her daughter for a considerable period of time. She can't go home, can't go back to work. But all those things considered, she's a strong woman and is doing remarkably well.
All right. Now, obviously, she's going to get grilled pretty aggressively by the defense, and she's going to be asked a lot of questions, not to put her on trial, but simply to see whether or not the state can make the case against the accused. So I'm curious, physical evidence, did they take fingernail scrapings from her?
Well, I'm not at liberty to discuss any of the forensic evidence. That's solely within the province and control of the District Attorney's Office.
Well, it may be in their control, but I mean, you know, you could still tell us. I mean, there's no secret on that. There's no impediment to disclosing that. You know, whether a test was taken.
My commitment to the district attorney is not to do anything which could in any way affect their case. That's not my intent, and that's not my client's wish. So I think they prefer me not to discuss their evidence. And if I were a lawyer, I wouldn't want anybody talking about my evidence. I mean, if I were trying the case, I wouldn't want anybody talking about my evidence. So I'll respect that and honor that commitment.
All right. I didn't ask for the results, which is a little different. I'm just curious about the thoroughness of whether or not they're doing sort of the rudimentary tests. I mean, you know, whether they do fingernail scrapings, whether they took photographs of her, whether they get cameras from the halls, whether they've done a thorough, investigation. You know, whether given him the opportunity to speak to them. I'm sure that he invoked his rights. I'm just trying to understand the investigation to see how they're approaching it.
Well, I didn't conduct the investigation. You know, they did. So I think you have to ask them that question.
I have read in at least one newspaper that she has been an employee of this hotel for several years and has been a good employee, that there have been no incident, no problem with her, no other accusations, for instance.
Yeah, not only, yes, she's actually been employed by this hotel for 3 years, and Sofitel, the general counsel of the hotel, called me this morning to say that they would like it to be known that they support her in every respect, that they stand by her, and they would like her to come back to work, and they're very supportive of her in every possible respect.
Had she ever heard of this man before, or heard his name, or even seen his picture, or seen him in the hotel or anything? It was just like totally, you know, this was the first time she'd ever encountered him?
This was the first time she ever encountered him. In fact, didn't know who this guy was, or personally or in the world, until a day after this took place.
And I understand that she made a quick report right after that. She went to some personnel that she didn't make the 911 call, but somebody else did? Yeah,
she reported this to security, as she thought and was correct in realizing that that's what she was supposed to do. And then the authorities were contacted. The police department was contacted.
And the media's been all over her like a wetsuit since,
you know,
I assume.
Oh, man. You know, here's someone who lives in an apartment. She attempted to go home at one point. There were like 30 camera crews outside of her apartment. She was scared out of her mind. She's not been able to go home. She was afraid for her daughter to be there, so her daughter had to stay with someone. They were separated from one another. She doesn't feel she can ever go home. She doesn't feel that she can go back to work. She's afraid to walk on the street. This is someone who lived a very private, simple life, who is now, through no fault of her own, has been thrown onto the world stage with all this scrutiny, which she absolutely doesn't want in any shape or form.
Now, if this crime happened, and wait, and I'm a lawyer, so I'll wait until it's proven beyond a reasonable doubt. But I understand the situation. But if it turns out that it was proven beyond a reasonable doubt, or even if it hasn't been, does she intend to sue him for damages? And I'm asking you this not in an accusatory fashion, because I happen to believe that someone who's been wrong should be compensated. But is that your discussion with her?
We've had no discussion in that respect. That's not something that she's brought up. That's not something that she's told me she has even a slight concern about. Her only concern about is, what do I do next? What's going to be my day tomorrow? There's been no discussion whatsoever about a civil lawsuit.
Does she worry that he may get a bond and make bond?
I think she worries about stepping onto the public sidewalk, and she feels that this is someone who has, great wealth and great power and great ability to do something which could be harmful to her or to her daughter. So, yes. Absolutely. All
right, and please understand that sort of our rough start at the beginning of this was not meant to be disrespectful of you or your client, but merely to try to get more information about an investigation that many are interested in.
Hey, Greta, I'm a lawyer. I try cases. I get beat up all the time, and I try to beat up my adversary. I get it.
Well, you should be on TV and get viewer email. Believe me, they're going to fry me for doing that in the beginning of this. So don't worry.
And they should send them all to her at her personal email address. I'll be happy to hear about it.